Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this 4 granny square pullover for girls. So you have 4 granny squares in front and you have 4 granny squares at the back. The sizes that I am offering is 1 to 6 years. So 5 to 6 years is the biggest one that I'm going to show you. It can be easily made into bigger ones, and I'm going to give you a quick kind of explanation what you have to do to make it bigger. But we're going to work with the same size squares for all sizes, and we are just gonna add if we need to add a little bit to make it bigger. Anyways, for now, so this is what we're making. Okay, so we have 4 granny squares that we connect together. The granny squares were made with V stitches. Instead of 3 double crochets, we have a double crochet chain 1 double crochet. That way our pullover is a little bit lighter and a little bit softer. It doesn't have that stiffness that would have the 3 double crochets. And then we have the V stitch sleeve. So it's all V stitches, so kind of lacy, perfect for chilly summer evenings. I love these pullovers. I really do a lot of these, especially before the summer, because I usually have a lot of nice colors left over, you know, from other projects. So I just put them together and create something very simple yet beautiful. Okay, so this is a size 1 to 1.5 years old. And all squares are exactly the same. The next size that I have is 2 to 3 years in size. I have it in white and other kind of softer colors, just much lighter. I have all my squares on this one are completely different. I just used up whatever I wanted, just very random colors. 2 to 3 years, so everything exactly the same square. Again, I will show you how to measure, how to make it bigger, and how to connect everything and to adjust sizes. Next one is 4 to 5 years. So just like that. Again, this is just for inspiration, for perhaps picking some colors, making up your mind what kind of look you're going for. This is in color, so this is kind of a sandy color. Really like this. This one looks really kind of warm and really handmade. And this is the biggest one. So this is 8 to 9 years. This fits my daughter, and the only thing to change is to make the squares bigger. So the ones that we will be making, I have decided that we're going to do 5 rows of color in the square, and the row number 6 is going to be the main color that we have. Okay, so if you want to do anything over 5 to 6 years, you just need to add another row to the square, and you're gonna get bigger squares. That means bigger chest circumference. Okay, all you have, then the rest is exactly the same. Okay, you add if you need. If you don't need, you don't. You just connect, add the sleeves, go around the neck. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I think color wise this is my favorite one. It kind of these warm, kind of darker, brighter colors together with this cream color looks really pretty. Anyways, I think I forgot when I was talking about what we're going to need for this project. I think I have forgotten to say how much of the main color yarn we're going to need. So I'm just saying that now. If you decide to make this, you're gonna need just over 100 grams of your main color. Okay, 150, I think. Yeah, somewhere between there. I usually 1 skein of yarn is not enough for me to make my cardigan. Anyways, if you got interested, let's go on, have a look of what we're going to need. Actually, I just remember now, I have it here with me. Because I usually get asked if I make something bigger, I get asked if it can be made smaller. If I make something small, I get asked in the comments if it can be made bigger. So just saying, for those who would like this in a smaller size, I do make this in baby size like this. If somebody wants to make one for a baby, let me know in the comments, and I'm sure I can whip out a little tutorial on it. Just gonna quickly show you. So this is the edging. There's a little closing at the top, apart from it being able to, that you can open it in the front for the baby. The rest is kind of the same. You can do longer sleeves, but technically it's kind of the same. So let me know if you want that one. If you want that one, let's go and have a look at what we're going to need, and we can start. To make this granny square pullover, we're going to need a few stitch markers. I probably have too many. We'll probably only need 2 or 4 of them, so just have a few lying around. A measuring tape, very important. We have to measure that the pullover will fit. Scissors, a needle to hide all of our tails, a 4mm hook that matches your yarn, and we will be using lightweight yarn or number-free yarn, DK, double knit, in other words. So any kind of yarn that weight for the main color and a few colors for the granny square itself. Just make sure that the hook fits your yarn. Okay. So how much yarn we're going to need. Now it all depends on the colors, and the little colors for the squares. It all depends on what you want to do. You don't really need a whole lot of each color for one granny square, just a little bit. And then you can decide whatever you want to do with the colors. If you want all your squares to be the same colors, or you want them all different, completely up to you. So I just have these leftovers that I use, and I have 5 colors. I have yellow, this is cream, silver, red, and navy. And for the main color, I have got this mustard or dark yellow. This is classic DK from Ice Yarns. You don't have to use this yarn, just use whatever you have. So first of all, we're gonna start with making the squares. Again, like I said, just use some of the leftovers if you have for the main part. We shall start with making a granny square, which is made with V stitches. Okay, so you can see there's a chain 1 in between 2 double crochets. That way our granny square is a little bit lighter, and it doesn't use up so much yarn. And as I usually make these for the summer, these pullovers, it is a little bit lighter and has a little bit more holes in it. Okay, so to start, grab your very first color. I'm going to use this yellow, and we are going to start with a magic circle. Okay, so whichever way you do that, I just twist it around my 2 fingers and cross them like this. Then I go under, pull out the yarn, and we start with chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. Now those 3 chains count as a double crochet and chain 1. Then I'm going to yarn over and make a double crochet back into that circle. So we have 1 V-stitch. Next thing we're going to do is chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. This is our corner. Then we make a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. This is our second V-stitch. We're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now this is our second corner. After that, we make a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. This is our third V-stitch. We need 4 in total. So next it's chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And our last V-stitch, so double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. Now we are going to join. We still need to make the last corner. Now what I do in the last corner, now usually I make 3 chains in the corners, but for the very last one, I'm going to chain 2. 1 and 2, and once I make that slip stitch to join the square, it's going to look like I have 3 chains right here. So that because I find that when you do 3 chains and then you slip stitch, that corner becomes a little bit bigger than the others and it is noticeable. So I choose to do 2 chains at the very end. Just gonna pull the circle tight and into the second chain out of the 3, so 1 2 3, into the second chain I'm going to make a slip stitch. So this is my last corner, and all corners, all these corner holes look the same size. Now I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to cut off the yarn. I'm finished with this color, and pull that out. Okay, so for the next color I have my cream, and I'm going to change sides. So if I was going that way, I need to go from the other side of the square. I'm going to be changing sides. I'm not going to go all the same way all the time. I'm going to make a slip knot. Now I'm going to find one of the corners, whichever it is, one of the bigger holes. I'm gonna put my hook in, catch my slip stitch. Now make sure that you have all your tails on the same side. So when I'm joining a new color, I'll make sure that the other tail is on the same side. And I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now again, this is a double crochet and a chain 1 and turn. Now we are in the corner right here, so we're gonna proceed with a double crochet. So this is a V-stitch. Then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and another double crochet into that same chain 3 space, chain 1, and another double crochet. So we have a V-stitch, chain 3, and a V-stitch. Now we will start making chain 1 in between the V-stitches on the all 4 sides, okay? So after the corner, V-stitch, chain 3, V-stitch, I'm gonna chain 1, go straight into the next corner and make a V-stitch. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, then chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and another V-stitch back into that same chain 3 space. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Then we're going to chain 1 and start on the next corner. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and a V-stitch back into that same chain 3 space. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and chain 1. We have one more corner left, and we start with double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now I would usually again chain 1 and then connect, but again it will leave a bigger space right here, so I will just slip stitch into the second out of the 3 chains right here. If you feel more comfortable with chaining 1 before the slip stitch, you can do that, absolutely no problem, but I'm just going to do the slip stitch. So chain 1, chain 2, and chain 3 into that second chain, slip stitch, chain 1, and cut my yarn and pull that out. Now again, I'm gonna turn, so I have my square face up, and I'm going to join my third color, which is silver. And everything is very similar now. I'm just gonna go really quickly through it. Make a slip knot. Again, make sure that your tails are on the inside of the square. So this is going to be the inside of your cardigan with all your tails. And I'm just gonna join in between any of the two side V-stitches, so just right here. And I'm going to start with chaining 3, 1, 2, and 3. This time I'm not going to turn, I'm gonna go this way on the face side of the square. So double crochet back into that same chain 1 space and chain 1. Next is the corner, so double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, yarn over, and double crochet, chain 1, double crochet back into that same chain 3 space. So you will always have, where you have the chain 3, you're gonna have 1 V-stitch, chain 3, and another V-stitch. After that, chain 1, go into the next space in between your V-stitches. So this is 1 V-stitch and this is another one. So right in between them, right here, make a V-stitch. Double, chain, and double. Chain 1, and then you have your next corner. So V-stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and V-stitch. Chain 1, find the space in between your V-stitches from the previous row, so right here, make a V-stitch. Chain 1, again the corner, so V-stitch, chain 1, V-stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and another V-stitch. Chain 1 in between the V-stitches from the previous row, right here, V-stitch. Chain 1, and you should have your last corner, and we're just going to finish that. Chain 3 and V-stitch. Now again, after the very last V-stitch, we should normally make a chain 1, but again, I don't want that space to be bigger than any others, so I'm just going to slip stitch into the second out of the 3 chains. So chain 1, chain 2, chain 3. I'm just gonna go into the second chain, slip stitch, chain 1, and cut my yarn. My next color is this red. I'm gonna make a slip knot. Again, I'm gonna make sure that when I connect, I leave my tails all on the same side. So I'm just gonna go in between any of the V-stitches from the previous row. So I'm just gonna start here. I'm gonna chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and now this time we have to turn, we have to go the other way. So turn around, and you should have your tails facing you, and make a double crochet back into that same chain 1 space. So you have this V-stitch. chain 1 into the next space right here, make a V-stitch, chain 1, then it's the corner, V-stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and a V-stitch. Chain 1, and then a V-stitch in between the V-stitches from the previous row, into the chain 1 spaces in between them. Don't make them into on top of the V-stitch, you need to make them in between. Chain 1 and corner, a V-stitch, chain 3 and a V-stitch, chain 1 and continue on. So you're gonna have V-stitches in every chain 1 space in between. The corners is V-stitch, chain 3, V-stitch, and go all the way around. I'll meet you at the connection place. And I'm finishing this row, so after the last V-stitch, before I connect, I do not chain 1. That slip stitch is going to give me the space in between the V-stitches for the next row. So I'm just gonna find the chain, the second chain, so chain 1, 2, and 3. So this is the second chain. I'm gonna go into that and slip stitch, chain 1, and cut my yarn. Now leave the tails a little bit longer, it makes it easier to hide them after, and pull your tail. Again, I'm gonna place it facing up, so all the tails are on the same side. And I have one more color, which is very, very similar to the row that we did before. We are just gonna have a bit more V-stitches because our granny square is expanding. So slip knot, connect in any chain 1 space in between the V-stitches. I'm just gonna, let's see, I'm just gonna do that right here. Chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, double crochet back into that same chain 1 space. This time, the row number 5, we're gonna go on the face side, so you're looking at the side with no tails. So this is a V-stitch, chain 1 to the next space, V-stitch, chain 1, then I have my corner, V-stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and another V-stitch back into that same chain 3 space. Chain 1, find your next chain 1 space in between the V-stitches from the previous row, and make a V-stitch. Chain 1, next chain 1 space, and you keep going until you finish this row. So again, remember, in the corners, a V-stitch, chain 3, and a V-stitch. Go all the way around. I'll see you right here. I have my last chain 1 space. So V-stitch, again, I'm not going to chain 1, I'm just going to use that slip stitch as my space in between the V-stitches. Find your chain number 2, so chain 1 and chain 2, and connect, chain 1, and cut your yarn. And that is all there is to making a square like that. So at this point, I'm not gonna stretch it. My square measures approximately 12.5, maybe 13 centimeters, and yours should measure approximately the same. Okay, it might depend a little bit if your yarn might have been a little bit thicker or thinner, so don't worry. We will be able to add more length if we need to after we connect those squares. Now, unless you are really, let's say, under this measurement, if your square is much smaller than mine, after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, you might want to add one more. Maybe we're using a slightly thinner yarn, but we want to finish at approximately 13. It could be a tiny little bit smaller, could be a tiny little bit bigger. It still has a lot of stretch each way, so don't worry too much. Like I said, we will be able to add more width to the cardigan after that. Now what you want to do is you want to make 8 of these squares, okay, whatever colors you chose. You can be all different, like I said, and you want to hide your tails before we start connecting them. So the very important tail is the very middle one, because we have a magic circle in there and it has no knots. So this tail is not secured. First of all, we need to make a little knot to keep it from unraveling. So you're gonna go into those double crochets. I caught two. I caught a little bit of this and then a little bit of next one. You're gonna pull this out, but keep that loop. Then you're going to go into the loop with your needle and pull tight. And there you go. You have a knot right now and your middle is not going to unravel. And then I'm just gonna go in between those stitches around and hide that tail a little. And cut it off. Now I'm gonna do all my tails. I'm gonna show you another few. So this one right here, I'm just gonna hide it in the same color stitches. So in one way and then back in between right here and turn like this. And cut. Whichever way you hide your tails doesn't matter as long as they are secured. Then I grab the next color and I see which is the top of the V-stitches closest, so right here. I'm just gonna bring the yarn higher up and then just hide it. Like this. And that is done. So keep going, hide all your tails, and we will meet again when we have all 8 squares finished. Once we have all of our squares done, we're going to start connecting them. So grab 4 squares, whichever ones you want to be at the back of your pullover. As my ones are all the same, I'm just gonna grab 4 of them, then place them like this. Okay, so whichever way you want them, if you have different colors, this is going to be the top of your pullover and this is going to be the bottom, and we will be connecting 2 squares at the time, and we're gonna start with the 2 bottom ones. So grab one of the squares and make sure that they are all lying face up, or whichever way you choose them to lie down, you know, whichever way you want. I'm gonna use this as the inside of the cardigan because this is I can see the very first row is double crochets are facing up here, or whichever way you like it. Absolutely, it doesn't make a difference. Just make sure that they are all lying the same side up, so they all look the same. Okay, so we're gonna start with the bottom left. Grab your main color, make a slip knot, and we are going to connect right here in the side. You see, this is the corner V-stitch. We're gonna connect right behind it, okay? And my square is facing up right now. I'm gonna connect. I'm gonna chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, double crochet back into that same space. So this is a V-stitch, chain 1, and make your normal corner. Chain 3, and a V-stitch. So for this very first square, you are just gonna go around like a normal row, okay? So just keep going all the way around, just like we made the last row. V-stitches in between V-stitches from previous row, chain 1. Chain 1, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. So keep going. I'm gonna see you right here. And so I'm finishing up this row. I'm going to make a slip stitch into that second chain from the 3 that I made in the beginning. So right here, just a slip stitch. And I'm not going to chain 1 or anything right now. We're going to connect the next square straight away. So what you want to do is you want to place that square up like this and put the next square right underneath it. And we are going to start in the, so you have the corner right here, 1 V-stitch, second V-stitch. We're gonna start in the chain 1 space after the second V-stitch right here, okay? So this is the corner, V-stitch 1, V-stitch 2, and right behind it. So I'm just going to yarn over, go into that space right here, so after the second V-stitch, and make a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet back into that same chain 1 space. So we made a V-stitch. Now instead of chaining after every V-stitch, we're going to make a slip stitch in the other side in between the next 2 V-stitches. So you can see it is connected right here. You find your next 2 V-stitches or the chain 1 space in between, go in there with a hook, catch your yarn, and slip stitch. Then make a V-stitch in the next chain 1 space in between. So right here. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, find the next chain 1 space on the other side in between. So right here, and slip stitch. Another one, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, find the next 2 V-stitches, so right here in between them, slip stitch. Now we have the corner right here, so make a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now you're going to chain 1 for the corner. You're going to find on the other side we have 3 chains right here in the corner. You're gonna find the middle chain, so chain number 2. So 1, 2, 3. This is the middle chain right here. Go into that chain and slip stitch. Chain 1, and then finish your corner with a V-stitch right here. Chain 1 and keep going around the square as your usual. So at this point we are only connecting the 2 squares on one side right here. Okay, so for now just keep going as usual. I'm gonna see you here. Okay, so I have this part left to connect. Okay, so the next is a corner for me, so make a V-stitch. Now you're going to chain 1. You are going to find the second out of the 3 chains at the corner right here and slip stitch into that. Okay, so 1, 2 and 3. So 1, 2, 3 into go into that second chain, or into that very middle chain, and slip stitch. Now I find the finishing part easier if I just take the 2 squares together like this. Okay, after the slip stitch you're going to chain 1. Now you're gonna make another V-stitch into the corner, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now on the other side we still have 1 space in between the 2 V-stitches, so we're gonna go in that space, catch my yarn, slip stitch, and all we have left is 1 space right here where we make our very last V-stitch. So double crochet, chain 1 and double crochet, and all we have to do is connect that very last V-stitch to the main square. So I'm just gonna go in like this, just where the connection is, grab my yarn, pull through, slip stitch, chain 1 and cut my yarn. We have connected 2 squares. Now if you find this difficult, okay, the connection as you go, you can always make 1 more row and just sew them together. Okay, now the thing that I don't like while sewing is that it makes the stitching in between the squares, it usually makes it tight, so the squares are kind of bulging out, and you can really see that this part is much more tense. When I connect as I go, it is just looks like normal squares, and it's nice and stretchy. Okay, so we have 2 squares connected. Now we're gonna connect the 2 above to the bottom 2 squares. Okay, so again we are going to start with the top left square. We are going to make a slip knot. Again, make sure that your top squares are facing the same way as the bottom ones, and we will start in between the 2 V-stitches, chain 3, double crochet, chain 1, make your corner as usual, chain 1, double crochet, so my corner is done, chain 1, and then for now keep going with this until you have 1, 2 full sides. I'm gonna see you at this corner right here, and we will connect the top square to this one right here. Okay, so we have 1 and 2 sides. Okay, we need to meet in this corner. So like I said, I have 1 full side, and I'm just finishing the second side of the square, and we want to start connecting within that corner, okay, to this. So first of all, we make a 1 V-stitch in the corner and chain 1. Now you want to start right here. Okay, so we chained 1. Again, we're gonna find this middle of the 3 chains right here, so chain 1, 2 and 3. This is the second chain. I'm gonna go into that chain, slip stitch, chain 1, and we need to finish this corner with a V-stitch. Now, no chaining once, we're gonna start slip stitching. So after the first V-stitch, so you see the V-stitch here, we go behind it and slip stitch. Make a V-stitch in the next chain one space. Again, find your next chain one space on the other square, which is right here, and slip stitch. Another V-stitch. Find your next two V-stitches on the other square, in between them, slip stitch. So right here, slip stitch. Here, slip stitch, and then we have our corner. Make a V-stitch, chain one, double crochet. So this is a half of the corner. You're gonna chain one after that one, and you're gonna find the same place where you have connected the other two. So I can see that it is right here. Okay, so I'm gonna slip stitch together with the other two into that same corner, chain, slip stitch, chain one, and you turn, and then we're going to finish this side. So we need one more V-stitch for the corner right here. And now we start chaining one in between the V-stitches. So chain one, and finish this square. Okay, and I'm not gonna chain after the last V-stitch. I'm gonna find the second out of the free chains. This is the second one, and slip stitch. Don't cut it off. We're gonna add the last square right now. So turn around so you have your hook at the top. Place your very last square right here, and now we're just gonna connect this to the square right here and right here. So no chaining after that. We are going to yarn over, go in after the second V-stitch from the top. So this is the very first V-stitch, this is the second one, and right after that second one we make a double crochet, chain one, double crochet. Now we slip stitch in between the next two V-stitches. So the next two are here into the chain one space, from the top right in there, slip stitch, V-stitch, chain one, double crochet, the next space in between right here, slip stitch, V-stitch, and then we connect it in between the next two V-stitches, which is right here. And the next is the corner. This might be one of the more difficult part because we're right in there. So I'm gonna try to go slow. So make a V-stitch in the corner, chain one. Now we have to find that same exact place where we have connected all other three squares in. I'm gonna show you so you can see they are all connected to this. So I'm gonna go in and slip stitch, chain 1, finish my corner, so V-stitch in the chain 3 space, and now we're gonna start connecting this side right here. So after the corner V-stitch, you're gonna find the next chain 1 space, so this is the corner, you can see it very well, and right after that, in between, slip stitch. And these are the next 2 V-stitches, in between them, slip stitch. Slip stitch. Make sure you don't miss any chain 1 spaces, okay? So your V-stitches look like they are connected right at the top, not in between them, but they kind of make this this kind of shape, okay? So they are right connected right at the top of each other. And then we keep going. We have another few to finish connecting. And the corner V-stitch, chain 1, find your middle chain out of the 3, so this is my second one, the very middle one, slip stitch, chain 1, and now we are just going to finish this side, which we are not connecting to anything. So we just go around and we start chaining 1 in between the V-stitches, okay? So we don't chain 1 here because we are slip stitching, okay? And that slip stitch counts as the chain 1 in between the V-stitches. As we're not connecting it right here, we start our chain 1 in between our V-stitches. So for now, keep going. This is normal corner, and I'm gonna see you right here. And again, I'm gonna show you how to finish connecting this space right here. Okay, so to finish, I have a V-stitch in the corner. I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to find again the middle chain from the corner from this square. I'm gonna go into that chain and slip stitch, chain 1. Now we need to finish off the corners, so make another V-stitch, connect in between the first 2 V-stitches on this square, so you can see this space. There should only be 1 space left at this point. And all we need is 1 more V-stitch to finish this square. So V-stitch, and to finish it off, where the connection is right here, any place really, you just put in your hook and slip stitch, chain 1, and cut your yarn. And this is us. We have finished connecting the back piece of our pullover. Now before I do anything else, I'm just gonna pick one of my stitch markers and I'm gonna place it anywhere really. So this will mark the face side of my pullover. Once we connect the pullover, so this will be the outside of it, okay? So this is the side that everybody is going to see. We just don't want to mess up and connect both sides on different places. So I'm just gonna mark the top or the face side of the square. Okay, so for now I'm just gonna quickly hide those tails. I'm just gonna sew them in between the stitches right here. And then what you want to do next is grab your front squares for the front. Again, place them whichever way you like them to be. And you're only going to connect the two bottom squares exactly the same as we did here. Okay, so just connect, start here and connect these two. Now it's going to be different with connecting the top two because we want to leave some space here for the neckline in the front to be lower than the back. I will show you the whole thing, but the two bottom squares are exact same way to be connected as we did here for the back. So do that and I will come back and we will connect the top of the front piece. I have my two bottom squares from the front part connected, and now I need to connect these two to the bottom ones. Now, like I have mentioned already, these are going to look slightly different than the back part, okay? What we want to do right here, I'm going to show you on one of the cardigans, is you can see there's only single crochets at the very front here. That what will that do is make that front a little bit lower than the back part. As you can see in the back side we have V-stitches, 2 rows of V-stitches on top of those top squares, where in the front we only have single crochets just to cover that top row so we can do the ribbing. Okay, so to start connecting, first of all, I'm just going to mark the face side of my squares so they both match. I'm just gonna put in a stitch marker like this. Okay, now we're gonna start with the neckline on the top. Okay, and first of all we're gonna take this square on the left hand side, make a slip knot and connect your yarn in between the two V-stitches. So this is the corner, the V-stitch, and you connect it right here in between the first and the second V-stitch from the corner, so right here. And we are going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3. Now this chain 3 counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. We are not going to do anything else in this space right here. We're gonna go straight into the corner and make a V-stitch, chain 1, double crochet, chain 3 for the corner, 1, 2 and 3, and continue on as usual until you get to the side of this square, to the bottom right here. So at this corner we're gonna start connecting. So for now keep going as usual. Okay, so I'm finishing one side and the next is the corner, so I'm gonna make one V-stitch, chain 1, and now what we want is we want to connect to this corner up here. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it around, find the second chain or the middle chain out of the free, put in my hook, pull it out, chain 1. Now we need to finish this corner, so another V-stitch. It is kind of a very similar to what we did on the other side. It's just a few places that are slightly different, but for now we just slip stitch, make sure that they are matching the other square. Okay, a V-stitch on, right on top of the V-stitch like this. They are connected at the top, and keep going. So I'm not gonna talk anymore, I'm just gonna connect for now into the next space. Slip stitch, and the corner. So V-stitch, chain 1. Now again I'm gonna find the exact same chain where I have connected these two squares. So this is that right here. Slip stitch, chain 1, and now I just need to go up this side. So I'm gonna meet you at the corner right here. You do this as usual with chain 1 in between the V stitches. Okay, so right here is the first difference in connecting. Okay, so we have the corner up here. We are just going to make a V stitch. Okay, so double crochet, chain 1, and then what we want to do is make the last double crochet from the V stitch into the middle of the chain 3. Okay, so in the second chain, just so it is, so we have a straight edge like that. Now we're not gonna do any chaining. We are finished with the top part right here for the half of the pullover. We're gonna turn around, grab our last square, and I'm gonna yarn over, make a double crochet into the second chain, again into the middle chain out of the corner chains right here, chain 1, then double crochet as usual in the corner. So this is 1 V-stitch, and then I'm gonna start connecting to this chain. So again, in between the first and the second V-stitch, I have a slip stitch, then V-stitch in the next chain 1 space on the square that I'm working with, and slip stitch and V-stitch, and slip stitch, and so you just keep going. We have done that once, so I'm not gonna go very slow right here because the connection right here is the same as we did here. I'm just gonna remind you so you can watch me do that, but I'm gonna go quick. And then the corner, so V-stitch, chain 1. Again, I'm gonna find the exact same place where all the squares are connected, so in there, slip stitch, chain 1. I need to finish that corner, so V-stitch, and find the next chain 1 space here. So for now, keep going. I will see you probably right here. I'm finishing connection right here. So I made a half of the corner, chain 1, connect into the middle chain, chain 1, and finish off this side as usual with chain 1 in between the V stitches. I'll see you here. Okay, so to finish the top right here, we have to match both sides. So I made a half of the corner. I just have a V-stitch here. I'm gonna chain 3. Then I'm gonna put another V-stitch back in the corner. Now chain 1 and make a double crochet in the next chain 1 space. And we are done for now. Okay, so we have a chain 3 here and just a double crochet. So this is going to be our neckline. Now the next step is we are going to connect the two top parts, but first of all, grab 2 stitch markers and we're just going to put those 2 squares together. Okay, so make sure that they are both face side up, and I'm just gonna put them like this. So this is the back, and I put them on top of each other. Okay, so I have a stitch marker marking my face side on the top, and one on the other side. Okay, so both face sides are on the outside. And now it just makes it easier, especially if you're not very used to working with granny squares and connecting as you go. Just grab a couple of stitch markers and just kind of mark these two squares together. Okay, I'm just gonna go in like this, so you don't get confused which side you have to be working on while we are connecting right here. So both sides are connected and they cannot turn around or twist in somehow. Okay, make sure that your squares are the way you wanted them if you have different colors right here, because this is going to be the top of our pullover. Okay, so now once you have this done, we can go on and connect the top. So grab your hook, and we are going to start with chaining 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we are going to turn. Okay, we're gonna be looking at the inside of our pullover. Go back into that chain 3 space right here and make a V-stitch. Okay, so just like that. Then you're going to chain 1, and you want to grab that corner, that top corner on the other side. And again, now you're looking at the inside of your pullover. Okay, so this is the inside. We have finished V-stitch, chain 1. You grab that corner like that, and into that chain 3 space right here you make a V-stitch. Chain 1 and a double crochet. So this is how it all looks like now. Okay, so you have a V-stitch, chain 1, and a V-stitch on the other side. You want to slip stitch right into that top of that chain 3. Okay, right here. So slip stitch. So when you look at it like that, there's a V-stitch on this side, and it is connected. Now for the back, we're gonna go all the way right here with the making V-stitches in the chain 1 space, just on the back. Okay, now we come to this place where we have connected our 2 squares. So you want to find that in between. Okay, so this is the corner. We completely skip that V-stitch and that 1 chain and go right in between where the 2 squares were connected into this space. Don't forget to chain 1. I'm gonna go right in there, make a V-stitch, chain 1, and again I'm gonna skip this chain 1 and the V-stitch from the other square and start further on. So just like that. Okay, so now you keep going until you finish the back. Okay, so we are at the corner, the back of the pullover. Okay, so this is the front, this is the back. We make a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now we're gonna connect this to the front right here. You're gonna chain 1 and you're gonna turn. Now you want to look at this piece on the inside, okay? So you're looking like that. Okay, and into the very, very corner, make a V-stitch. Okay, so you have one V-stitch on the other side. You're gonna slip stitch after the very first V-stitch on the back right here. Okay, so this is the front, this is the back. After the first slip stitch, after the first V-stitch, just slip stitch it together. And the only thing that you need to do now is put a double crochet into the chain 3 at the front right here. So yarn over into the top of that chain 3 where we have started the neckline. I'm gonna put a double crochet, chain 1, and cut your yarn. Now I hope this was not too difficult for you. Okay, at the end of the day, what you can do if this was really difficult, okay, you can just sew this part. Just add an extra row at the back and you should have 2 rows, but at the very, very beginning, like this, okay? Like that. So we have 1 V-stitch. This is exactly the same. 1 and 1, and the chain 3 and the double crochet. So our neckline looks like that. Now if you take the 2 markers out that are holding on to our squares, you are going to see this. Okay, so just like that. Now what I want to do is, I actually forgot to tell you, I was kind of in the moment here talking. You don't really have to cut off where you finish. You can just keep going, making single crochets around to do your neckline. I wasn't supposed to cut it off, but I only noticed now that I did. Anyways, I'm gonna have to reconnect it, no problem with that. I just want to hide any of the tails that I have left before I start my neckline. Okay, so I'm just gonna get rid of these 2 tails. Okay, so like I mentioned, we're gonna start with our neckline, but first of all, we need to make sure that we have enough space here for the head. And I'm really sure that we do have enough space. We just measure to see if we can do a little bit of decreasing, okay? So first of all, I got my old notes out. We are going to look up the head circumference, so the very, very top measurement right here, to the size that you're making. I'm making it 5 to 6 years, this size, and the head circumference is approximately 51.5 centimeters. Let's say 52. Now you want to divide this number by 2. Okay, so 52 centimeters divided by 2 will be 26 centimeters for me. 26. Grab your measuring tape, and you just want to take this part, put those 2 squares like this, and measure if this opening in the front opens up to at least a half of the head circumference. You see, I can pull it out down to 30, even more, 31, and I only need 26. So I have enough place to do a little bit of decreasing. If you find it hard and it doesn't stretch that whole much, you don't do any decreasing around in the neckline in the single crochets while you do that, just to leave enough space. But I have loads of space. Okay, so now I have to reconnect my yarn because I forgot to leave it on. It's no problem. So I'm gonna make a slip knot, and right here where it should be connected, I'm just gonna reconnect. I'm gonna chain 1, and as I will be doing some decreasing, I will be skipping every stitch number 8. So I'm gonna make 7 single crochets, and where my single crochet number 8 would be, I would just skip that spot and keep going. Again, 7, where would be number 8, I'm just gonna skip around. We don't really need a special number for the neckline, so we're just gonna do a little bit of decreasing. So chain 1 and put your very first single crochet wherever you can. So this is 1, and I'm gonna put my second one here, 2, then I have my V stitches, so this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, 6, 7. Now this would be my single crochet number 8. I'm just gonna completely skip that, chain 1 space, and go into the next one. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and again this would be 8, so I'm gonna skip that, go into the next stitch. 1, there should be a chain 1 there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and again this would be 8. I will skip and keep going like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm gonna skip that and do keep going like this all the way around the neckline. Okay, so just right here, wherever you can put those single crochets, and then I will meet you right here. Okay, and so I will just keep going. I have 2, I have skipped 1 right here, I have 2, so then maybe here, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm gonna skip the stitch. Oh, excuse me, 6. So 7, skip a stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, skip a stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm gonna put 1 here, 6, 7, 8, so I'm gonna skip a stitch. Or did I? So I skipped here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Should skip that, chain 1 space. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if you skip a little bit here or there. We just want a little bit of decreasing. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, skip that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I would do a stitch here, so I'm just gonna jump over that, and I'm just gonna finish here and slip stitch into the very first stitch. This is the chain 1. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna go into the first stitch and slip stitch. Okay, so we have the top finished. Just have a look around if you want to change something up here, if you want it a little bit cleaner. I don't mind. This looks nice to me. And now we're gonna go straight on to doing the ribbing. So the ribbing on the top is made out of 3 stitches that we are going to keep connecting to those stitches that we have just made with single crochets, and it is single crochet, slip stitch, then slip stitch, single, single. We have the slip stitches at the very top right here, so your neckline is kind of a falling in. It's still very stretchy. It just makes it, instead of standing straight up, it's gonna pull it like this. Okay, excuse me. Now, where you have finished, so right here, you are going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're gonna skip the very first stitch, go into the second one from the hook and make a slip stitch. Slip stitch. Then you have 2 more chains at the bottom. You're gonna make 1 single crochet into each of them. So single and single crochet. Then you're gonna find the 2 stitches at the bottom that are free, the next 2 stitches, so this one and this one, and you're gonna slip stitch into each of them. Slip stitch into the first and slip stitch into the next one. Then you're going to turn. You want to go back up those 3 stitches, okay? So you can see this is top stitch, second stitch, and third stitch. So you're gonna start right here, going into the back loop. So you can see the stitch has the front loop that is closer to you and the back loop. Okay, so it's like a little V and front loop and back loop. So we are only going to catch the back loop, okay? And make sure that you have free stitches. You skip those 2 slip stitches that you have just made. So put your yarn in front of your work, find your third stitch from the top, so 1, 2, and 3, and to the back loop, single crochet. Next stitch into the back loop, single crochet. The very top stitch into the back loop, this one, slip stitch. I'm gonna pull and pull. Chain 1 and turn. Now we're gonna go back down, okay? So you're gonna skip the chain that you have just made, so the very top one, into the next stitch, again, back loop only. You're gonna make a slip stitch. And then into the back loop of the next stitch, single crochet, and into the back loop of the very last stitch, single crochet. Find the next 2 stitches at the bottom of your work. So right here we are going to connect into the next stitch, slip stitch, and into the next one, slip stitch. Again, we're gonna turn, put your yarn in front of your work like this, count 3 stitches down from the top, so 1, 2, and 3, into the back loop of this stitch, make a single crochet, into the back loop of the next stitch, single crochet, into the back loop of the very top stitch, slip stitch, chain 1 and turn, skip that chain 1, find your next stitch, into the back loop, slip stitch, into the back loop, single crochet, and single crochet. So this is all we're going to do for the neckline. Okay, so you have single crochet, slip stitch. Slip stitch is always at the very top. Once you have those 3 stitches done, you find the next 2 at your pullover, so 1, 2, and you're gonna make a 1 slip stitch into each of those 2 stitches. Again, you're gonna turn, yarn in front of you, count 3 stitches down from the top, 1, 2, 3, start with the bottom one into the back loop, single crochet, single crochet, slip stitch into the back loop, chain 1, turn, skip the chain, into the back loop of the top stitch, slip stitch, into the back loop of the next stitch, single crochet and single crochet, 2 slip stitches to connect it to the pullover. And again, and you will keep going like this until you go all the way around your neckline. Now I'm just gonna do a few quickly. Slip stitch, chain 1, slip stitch, single, single, 2 slip stitches to connect it to the pullover, turn, yarn in front, into the back loop, single crochet, into the next one, single crochet, slip stitch at the top, chain 1, turn, skip the chain 1, slip stitch into the back loop, single crochet and single crochet. Now again, remember that we are working all these free stitches, we are working into the back loop, so we get that elastic, and then connect with slip stitch and 1 more slip stitch. So you keep going all the way around. I'm gonna meet you right here at the end. Okay, so I am now finishing the neckline. So I have made the 2 rows, 1 up and 1 down, and now I need to connect, and as you can see I have 1 stitch left, and there's the slip stitch. So as long as you have a place here where to connect the row that you have finished, you are just going to connect somewhere at the bottom. It doesn't really matter where. And now I'm going to slip stitch up like this to close it. Now if you find the slip stitching too difficult, you can always cut your yarn and sew it up. Now to slip stitch, I'm just gonna make it a little bit like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go into the bottom chain on one side right here, and then I'm gonna go into the first or into the front loop of the stitch on the other side. Okay, so we were crocheting into the back loop, now I'm just gonna catch the front loop, so the first loop like this. Okay, my yarn is behind my work. I'm gonna catch, pull, pull and pull. Again, I'm gonna go into the next chain on one side, into the front loop on the other side, catch my yarn, pull, pull and pull, and 1 more. So my very top one on one side, into the front loop on the other side at the very top, yarn over and pull, pull and pull. I'm gonna chain 1 and cut my yarn. Now before hiding your tails, make sure that you are happy with everything. So this is how the top of my pullover looks like, and as you can see, it's lying down. Okay, so quickly I am going to hide my tails. I just like to work that I don't have to come back where I have finished. So I'm gonna go in, make a knot and just hide it in between the stitches. Down, and I'm just gonna go up and cut that off. I think I have another tail here, but I have crocheted over it a little bit. Just gonna go in between the stitches and hide. Done. Okay, so the next step for us is to figure out if we need to add more rows at the sides right here to increase our chest measurement. Okay, so first of all, we are going to give it a quick measure and see what we have right now. So I'm not gonna pull on it, I'm just spreading it out like this, just so it's nice and flat. Grab your measuring tape and measure from one side down to the other. You can see I'm at 29 centimeters in width. So for the chest, this would be enough for 1 year's, for up to 2 years. Okay, so any size for up to 2 years, for me it would be enough. So I wouldn't have to do any extra rows around to increase the length. I could just connect right here and leave the armhole. Okay, so but as I'm making a bigger size, I'm making 5 to 6 years old. Let me show you. So the chest finished measurement, this is what we are going to look at right now. Okay, so for 5 to 6 years that I'm making is 66 centimeters. Now 66 is all the way around. As I'm only measuring the half, I need the half of this measurement. So 66 divided by 2 is 33 centimeters. I'm gonna measure that again. So it is at 29, so I'm approximately 4 centimeters short. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm gonna add 1 row on each side. That will probably not be enough, even that. If not enough, I'm gonna add the second row on both sides. For some, 1 row might be enough. For some, you might have to do 2 rows. Completely up to you what you want to do right here for the chest measurement. You can go a little bit bigger than the ones that I have. It doesn't really matter as long as it is wide enough for the child. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to show you the whole thing right now. First of all, if this is enough for you, if you're making a smaller size and this is enough for you, you don't do any extra right here. Just have a look of what I'm going to do with the stitches up here, okay? Because you're going to have to start straight away with the sleeve and you're going to have to put some V-stitches here. So just have a look of how I'm going to add stitches up here. Okay, so first of all, it is good if you have the two strands, so you can work with both sides at the same time. You know, you add 1 row right here and keep your tail, just keep your yarn connected just in case you need to do a second row, and at the same time you do 1 here and you just keep measuring to see without cutting your yarn to see if the measurement matches. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna start with this side. It doesn't really matter which one you start on. I'm gonna make a slip knot. Okay, and we're going to start, let me see, on this side. So this is the front. Okay, at the very bottom, I'm gonna go into the middle of the chains right here. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. I am going to turn and make a double crochet back into that corner stitch and chain 1. And now I'm just gonna go in between the V stitches and make these stitches. So pretty much the same as we have done with the granny squares. So very simple. So keep going like that. I'm going to see you at the top of the shoulder right here. Okay, so I had to come back. I forgot to show you what we're gonna do right here where the 2 squares are connecting. So I'm gonna yarn over and go in between those 2 squares and make a V-stitch. Chain 1, and then I'm gonna jump that whole corner and go into the chain 1 space above it. Okay, so just like that. Now if you find that this starts pulling your pullover very hard because of this V-stitch. What you can do is, instead of making it in between the two squares, you can take that apart and you can make a V-stitch right here where the corner was, chain 1, and make the next V-stitch right here. So make 2 V-stitches instead of 1. Completely up to you what you want to do here. I don't really see any difference whichever way you do it. I just prefer this way. Okay, so keep going. See you at the top. Okay, so at the top of the shoulder right here, we don't really have any V-stitches because this connection here was a funny looking one. So we have to add our V-stitches. Okay, so I'm gonna yarn over. This was a corner. I'm gonna make a V-stitch over here. Oh, I forgot to chain 1. So chain 1. I'm gonna chain 1, and again now I'm going to skip. So this is a V-stitch. Okay, so right here I'm gonna skip that, go into the next V-stitch. So I need to leave a little space, so it's like a double crochet that you have skipped here. Chain 1, V-stitch, chain 1. Okay, just like that. I'm gonna skip over this V-stitch right into the chain 1 space and keep going as usual. Okay, so just like that. Now again, if you find, so this time I'm seeing that I have this big space right here, which is much bigger than this one. I'm gonna take this apart. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm gonna make a V-stitch in between here. Instead of going here, I'm gonna go in between. Okay, so you can always try to find a better place for those V-stitches. It really depends on your hand or the yarn that you are using. You know, sometimes you end up with a bigger hole where you can just move the V-stitch a little bit back or forward if you need to. So then I'm gonna go in here this time, chain 1, and then continue on as usual. Okay, so like this. So this time it looks much more much better. Okay, so no big holes. They are a little bit closer together right here. Again, like I said, just have a look whatever you think you need to do here. As long as it looks nice and you match the other side, you will be absolutely fine. We don't really depend on how many V-stitches we have here. We just need to add a little bit of length. So keep going. I'll see you at the bottom right here. Okay, and so I am finishing. So the bottom corner stitch, double crochet, chain 1 and a double crochet right into the second chain or the middle chain. I'm gonna chain 1 and leave it, as I want to make another row on the other side. Just because it is easier to measure like that. If you don't have another skein, you can just cut off your yarn and attach right here, and then if you need another row on this side again, you're just gonna have to reattach it. For me, I'm just gonna leave it, and I'm just gonna start on the other side. I just need to find the beginning of my yarn, and now to match the V-stitches at the bottom, I'm gonna start at the back side. Okay, so this is facing front. I'm gonna start at the back side of my pullover. I'm gonna attach into the middle chain. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and again double crochet back into that same space, chain 1, and keep going. So make sure that you have the same amount of V-stitches on both sides. Okay, so whatever you did on the other one, you do the same on this one. So keep going. I'll see you at the bottom and we will do some measuring again. So I'm finishing. I have a double crochet chain 1 and my last double crochet goes into that very corner chain. Okay, I'm gonna chain 1 and I'm gonna leave. I'm not gonna cut anything for now. I'll see if I need another row. Okay, so place your pullover as it would, and we're gonna measure the chest again. Now remember how wide it should be. My one should be approximately 33 centimeters wide, and I'm only at 31, so not enough. I need to do another row on both sides to expand it another little bit. Now if this is enough for you, you just stay here. You can continue on connecting the sides with your yarn without cutting your yarn right here. Okay, as I need another row, I'm just gonna start where I have finished. So right here, let me see. So what you want to do is you want to start with chaining 3, 1, 2, and 3 if you need another row like me. Okay, so we chain 3, that counts as a double crochet and a chain 1, and then you just go in between the next or the first and the second V stitches and make a V stitch. So the same granny stitch for an extra row. So keep going. Now you have all these stitches ready here. You don't have any special places, so just keep going. See you at the end. And I am finishing my extra row with chain 1. So this is a V stitch, last one, chain 1, and a double crochet into the second chain like this. Okay, again I'm gonna chain 1 for this knot to run away from me, and I'm gonna leave it. I'll see if I need to do another row. If you do need to do another row, it's exactly the same as we did here. So you're gonna chain 3 double crochet here, and then just keep going if you need to add a little bit more. Now I need to match the other side, so I'm gonna do exactly the same right here. Like I said, it is easier to you if you have 2 sources of yarn, so you don't have to cut it off and keep reattaching. Okay, so again I'm gonna chain 3 and I'll start with a V stitch right here and just finish this row. Okay, so I'm gonna see you after that. And so I'm gonna measure again. Now I remind you that I have added 2 rows. If you need to add more to expand it, you go on and do another one. So I'm looking for approximately 33 centimeters in width. I'm a little bit over that, no problem at all. It can be wider. It is a pullover. It's always easier to put on if it is a little bit bigger rather than smaller for the child. So I'm happy with that. I am finished. Okay, I do not need to do anything else. This will work for the chest perfectly. So the next step is to measure out how much we have to leave for the sleeves right here to connect the sides and make the sleeves. Okay, so first of all, have another 2 stitch markers ready. I have put stitch markers on both of my sides so I don't have to cut my yarn and I don't frog my work. So you can take these out now if you don't need them anymore. Okay, so we need to measure out let me see armhole depth. So this one right here, Okay, so all these measurements. So for whatever size that you are making, so I'm making 5 to 6, it is approximately 14.5 centimeters. So I need to leave this opening right here for approximately 14.5 centimeters. Okay, I'm gonna have my 2 stitch markers ready. I'm gonna place my pullover, the corners at the bottom matching, and I'm just gonna put my measuring tape inside right here at the top, and I'm gonna see where 14.5 centimeters, and so 14.5 centimeters and in this chain 1 space. Now I would recommend you to finish in a chain 1 space. If it's in a V-stitch or in between the 2 V-stitches, it doesn't matter. It's just easier for us when we're connecting. Okay, so I'm happy with this 14.5 centimeters. I'm gonna put a stitch marker catching both sides. Okay, so once we connect, this is going to be our armhole. Now I'm just gonna check if I have exactly the same number of V stitches on one side and the other. Okay, so 1 2 3 4 5 6, 1 2 3 4 5 6. So it is exactly perfect. Now I'm gonna do it exactly the same on the other side. I'm gonna 1 2 3 4 5 6, and it's behind that, and 1 2 3 4 5 6, and here we are. Okay, so all of this is left for the sleeves. We need to connect this, and then we can start the sleeve straight away. Now to start the sleeve, we're to connect first, because we have the yarn attached here, we are going to put our pullover inside out. Okay, so we want the joining to be on the inside of the pullover. Okay, so this is where I have finished. Like this. I'm gonna take out that chain 1 that I had, so no chains right here. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to find that same place on the other side and make a slip stitch. Now every time I come to a double crochet, I'm gonna chain 1 over that and then slip stitch in the chain 1 space on one side and the exact same on the other side. Okay, so let me see. So I had the chain 1 before, so I'm just gonna slip stitch straight away. Then I have the double crochets on both sides, so I'm gonna chain 1 over that and in both, from both sides into the chain 1 space, slip stitch, chain 1, then no, I missed it. Make sure that you catch both of them. So I'm gonna go into the chain 1 space on 1, and then this is the next V-stitch, so make sure you are there, slip stitch and chain 1. Then in between the V-stitches, slip stitch, chain 1. In the middle of the V-stitch, slip stitch, chain 1. In between the V-stitches, chain 1. In the middle, chain 1. In between, slip stitch, chain 1. In the middle of the V-stitch, chain 1. And you keep going until you get to your stitch marker. Chain 1, chain 1, and this is where my stitch marker is. So I am going to slip stitch and I am going to start my sleeve. Now you can attach connect this side if you want right now, and because we have to turn out the pullover. It doesn't really matter, whatever is more comfortable for you. I will attach this side exactly the same way after. I'm just gonna do the, I just want to finish that side first. Okay, so to start this sleeve, I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and now what I want to do is I want to turn out the cardigan so it's facing the face side up again. Okay, like this. Now my yarn is running on through the inside, so I'm just gonna pull this through the armhole because it's a little bit easier. Okay, so I have it on the outside, and now what we're going to do is very, very easy sleeve. Okay, so we have the chain 3 right here from the connection, and what we are going to do is now we're going to put 1 V-stitch into each V-stitch that we had, not in between them anymore. The actual kind of the granny stitch is that you put them in between the V-stitches before. Now we're going to put a V-stitch inside a V-stitch. Okay, so chain 3, find your next V-stitch, which is right here, and double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. Your next one into the middle of that, not in between them, into the middle, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. Next one into the middle, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and you just keep going all the way around. This sleeve is very easy to make because it will be all this pretty much the same until we get the length, and then just attach the ribbing at the very end of the sleeve. Keep catching my camera with my hook, so I'm just gonna pull it up a little. Okay, so when you are coming closer to your chain 3 that you have right here, so see where your very last V-stitch is. So this is my very last V-stitch. I am going to make the last one in there. Okay, so I'm not gonna chain 1 after I finish my last one. You can chain 1 if you want, it doesn't really make any difference. I'm just not gonna do that. Then you find your chain 3 that you have started the row with, and you don't need to go into the chains, just go behind the chain 3, like into that hole, and slip stitch, chain 3 and turn. Find your next V-stitch where we will be turning our rows. So find the next V-stitch, which is very easy to see, so it's right there, and double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. Next V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. Like I said, it's very easy. I will show you once again how to finish the row, so keep going. I'll see you right here. Okay, so you can see my very last chain 1 space in the V-stitch from the previous row. Oops. Chain 1, double crochet, made my very last V-stitch, find the chain 3 that you have started the row with, go into that, slip stitch, chain 3 and turn. Now I'm gonna go on the inside, and again you find the first V-stitch, which is right here, and just V-stitch in there, chain 1, chain 1. So it is very easy to see where your stitches have to go, and as you can see, your sleeve will look a little bit different. Now you cannot tell on this one yet, but I'll show you on my other pullover. So you can see how all those V-stitches are one on top of each other. Okay, so you will keep going all the way, making them on top of each other into the chain 1 space in the middle of the V-stitch. Okay, so that's the easy part. Now we need to get to the length of the sleeve. Let's have a look. So sleeve length right here, okay? So you keep going in these stitches until you are approximately 1-2 centimeters short from the full sleeve length. Okay, so if it's 28.5 for me as in full length, I'm gonna stop at approximately 27.5. We will do the last V-stitch row together, and then we will add the cuff, which is actually, I have to get it again, is quite long, so it will look like your sleeve is longer than this, but have in mind that we don't have any kind of shoulder drop on this cardigan. Now usually when I make my yoke from the top down, you have the sleeve or the shoulder part on a diagonal like this, so the shoulder actually has some place, or the stitches that I make the yoke actually go around the shoulder. For this cardigan, as we have connected at top, it has no shoulder space, so some of the length of the sleeve is going to get lost on top of that shoulder. Anyway, if that doesn't make sense to you, just keep going until your sleeve is almost full length. Like I said, centimeter, 2 centimeters shorter than it is here in my notes. So keep going. I'll see you at the very last row of V-stitches at the sleeve. Okay, so at this point I'm approximately 1.5 centimeters short of the full sleeve length. I'm just gonna remind you what we have here. So sleeve length, my one is supposed to be full length 28.5 centimeters. If I measure that now, it is approximately 27. So we're gonna have one more row of V-stitch. We'll do a little bit of decreasing, and then we're gonna have another, let me see, approximately 5 centimeters of this elastic at the end of the sleeve. Okay, so to finish off the V-stitch, you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and you're gonna turn whichever way you have to go. Now this row is very easy, very similar. The only thing is that we're not gonna do chain 1 in between our V-stitches. So we're gonna lose about 1/4 of our stitches. So after the chain 3, I'm going into the next V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So no more chain 1 after that. I'm gonna go straight into the next V-stitch and double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Again, no chain 1, right into the next V-stitch, and just like that we are going to finish off. Okay, so keep going. I'll see you at the end of this row. So once you finish that, I have my very last V-stitch. I'm just gonna slip stitch under the chain 3, chain 1, and turn. I'm just going to go around making 1 single crochet into each stitch, and where I have the chain 1, I'm just gonna go under it and make a single crochet. So starting with the next one, 1 single crochet into each stitch. The number of single crochets doesn't really matter. We just want to make a good base for connecting the elastic to. So keep going, I'll see you here. So once you go all the way around the sleeve, you're going to slip stitch into the very first stitch. Okay, so now we're going to start the ribbing for the end of the sleeve, and we're going to chain 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now this ribbing is very similar to what we have done up on the top of around the neckline. It's just that we are going to do the whole thing in slip stitches. So it's going to narrow the end of the sleeve a lot, and it's going to look just beautiful. Okay, so for the first row, we're going to skip the very top chain into the second chain from the hook. We go and do our first slip stitch. So this is 1 into the next chain, 2, next 3, next 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we're gonna have 8 slip stitches all the way around. We don't count those 2 slip stitches that we're going to connect our ribbing down to the sleeve. Okay, find the next stitch, slip stitch, and 1 more into the next stitch, slip stitch. Now we're going to turn, put your yarn in front of you, and you're gonna have to turn it a little because you can see the stitches right there. It looks like you have stitches, but if you turn, you can really see them very well. So skip those 2 slip stitches that we have connected to our sleeve, so 1 and 2, and start with the back loop of the first one. Okay, so you should have 8 stitches now. So 1, 2, 3, into the back loop, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the very last one is 8. And you're going to chain 1 and turn. You're gonna skip the very first chain there into the back loop of the next one. You're gonna start slip stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so 8 slip stitches into the back loop. Now if you find it difficult to find the first stitch where you have to start after slip stitching down to the sleeve, once you finish coming down, you mark that very last slip stitch that you have made, so this one right here, with a stitch marker. After that, you make 2 slip stitches, 1 into the next stitch and 1 more into the next one. Then you're going to turn, put your yarn in front, and now you can see the stitch where the stitch marker is your very first stitch into the back loop, slip stitch. You can take it out and then keep going with 1 slip stitch into back loop, chain 1 at the top, turn, skip that chain 1 into the back loop, 8 slip stitches down, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Again, if you need to, you can mark your very last slip stitch like that. 2 slip stitches to the sleeve, 1 and 2, turn, yarn in front, and here you are, you know exactly where your first stitch is, into the back loop, and keep going all the way around the sleeve. So this takes a little while, but this is a fantastic way to finish off a sleeve. I think this is my very favorite way to do that. Okay, so for now you can see how stretched that is. For now, keep going all the way around. I'll see you right here, and we will slip stitch together. And so I am finished with this ribbing. Now again, I only need to connect down to the bottom. I have no more stitches left, and then I'm gonna do exactly the same joining as here. If you're more comfortable with sewing, no problem at all. Just gonna find the first chain on one side and then the front loop on the other side. So this right here. Like I said, it's exactly the same, but I think that this way it looks nicer, the joining, rather than sewing. Anyways, keep going until you get to the top. Try not to miss any stitches. I think I went a stitch too high. I did. So 2 more. And the last one. Now I'm going to chain 1 and cut my tail, and that is ready to be hidden. Now the next step is to do everything exactly the same on the other side. I still have my other yarn right here, which is connected. So I'm just going to take these 2 sides and put it so that it's the inside of the pullover. Yeah, I'm just gonna connect it in the exact same way, so I hope that you remember all of that. So let me see, I'm just gonna pull through and start slip stitches and chain 1. Now make sure that you are connecting in the correct side. So like I have just you see, I would have made a mistake, so make sure that you're connecting up here from the inside, whichever way it makes it easier for you. Okay, so slip stitch, chain 1 and slip stitch, chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1, very last slip stitch. I'm gonna chain 3, 1, 2 and 3. Now I need to make sure that I am on the outside of the pullover. I'm gonna pull my yarn through the sleeve, so I have my yarn on the outside. Makes it easier. And then I am just going to start the sleeve. So 2, 3. I lost a chain right there when I was pulling my yarn through, and everything exactly the same as we did on the other sleeve. You have to match the number of V-stitches, the number of rows, the whole thing. So I'm not gonna show you the other sleeve because it's the exact same thing. So finish off your sleeve, your second one, and I'm gonna see you. All we have to do is to finish off the bottom part. And so I have my both sleeves finished. They're very long. but that's how they are supposed to be. Okay, the only thing that we have left is to do the bottom. Now, if you want to add a little bit more extra length, you can just go around, just like we did right here, and add a row or even 2 or 3, whatever you want, as many rows as you want to the bottom. Now, what I'm going to do, I like this to be a little bit shorter. I think it would look fantastic in these colors with some denim shorts for the summer. It's fantastic. So the only thing that I'm going to do is going to go around with single crochets and then do the 5 single crochet ribbing. Okay, so give me 1 second. So a 5 single crochet ribbing is not very long. Let me see, it's approximately 3 centimeters, 3.5 centimeters. That is going to add a little bit of length to you. If you want this to be longer, so one way is to add more rows of V-stitches around, or you can just make the ribbing itself longer. Okay, so I'm gonna have 6 chains and I will end up with 5 single crochets up and down. You can go anywhere to probably like 10 single crochets, so 11 chains, 10 single crochets. For the ribbing, it's going to be much longer. Whatever you decide to do, completely up to you. Like I said, I am making these usually just for the summer, so I don't mind the cardigan being a little bit shorter. Okay, so to start, just connect absolutely anywhere, wherever you feel like you want to. I will just do it at one of the sides, and I'm going to do a little bit of decreasing, just like I did up on the top. It's not a whole lot, but it will just keep that bottom a little bit tucked in, just a slightly like a small little bit. That's what I was supposed to say. Okay, so I'm just gonna connect wherever I can. I'm gonna chain 1, and again I'm just gonna go around, skipping every stitch number 8. It doesn't really matter which way you want to go around with those single crochets. It doesn't matter, wherever you feel like comfortable. So I'm gonna go 1 single crochet, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll skip the number 8. Then there's a chain 1. So under the chain 1, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I skip number 8, so I skip this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, skip number 8, and keep going like this all the way around. Now again, if you make a mistake, if you skip a little more often or less often than me, it doesn't really make a difference, as we don't depend on any kind of stitch counts right here. We just go around, just cleaning up that edge. So go around, see you where we started. I'm finishing up my single crochets. This is my last one. I'm gonna connect into the very first stitch, and now I'm going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I'm gonna start making single crochets into the second chain. So I skip 1 into the second chain, single crochet 1, next chain 2, next 3, next 4, and 5. And again, you can turn if you want to work on the outside or on the inside. I don't find that this makes any difference at all. So I'm just gonna keep going on the inside. 2 slip stitches, 1 and 2. So it's exactly the same as we have done before. Just all single crochets into the back loop. Skip the 2 slip stitches in the back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, chain 1, turn, skip the chain 1 into the back loop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, slip stitch 1, slip stitch 2, turn, yarn in front into the back loop of the first stitch. Again, make sure that you skip those 2 slip stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, chain 1, turn, skip the chain 1 into the back loop, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 single crochets, slip stitch 1, slip stitch 2, and keep going all the way around. I'll see you right here. And I just have a few last slip stitches left just to close it at the bottom right here. And again, you come as close as you can, and when you have 1 stitch left or even that slip stitch right here, you're just going to slip stitch and then slip stitch it together. Now I'm going to do that on the outside or the face side of the cardigan or the pullover. And again, I'm gonna go into the chain stitch and then into the front loop of the stitch on the other side, into the, so this 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this one right here, and into the back loop, into here, and 2 more, very last one, and I am done. I'm gonna chain 1, cut off, and all I have to do is hide a few tails, but other than that my pullover is completely finished. So just like that, it's very nice, warm, kind of really looks really home handmade. So the last few tails, I'm just gonna put that through. Anyways, while I am hiding my last tails, I would like to ask you to leave feedback for me, maybe in the comments, of how difficult was this, because I was a little nervous about making this one, just because I think that perhaps the connect as you go, the squares, is a little bit difficult, especially if you are not used to this. But once you get the hang of it, I think it's not that bad. Anyways, I think this is the connect as you go is probably the easiest way to connect and the least tails. Okay, so this is it. I am finished. Again, let me know what you think. This is my little pullover cardigan for 5 to 6 years of age, all finished. Now it only needs to find a little girl to walk in it. Maybe it could be, I suppose it could be made for a boy as well. Just pick out a good few colors that would fit a boy. Anyways, we're finished with this. Let me know if you would like any other granny square projects. I don't have any to show you at the moment, apart from the baby cardigan that has the 4 squares as well. Leave me a comment if you want that. Or I actually make some coats for girls, again with granny squares, all kinds, different colors. If somebody would like to see a coat, I might make one perhaps for the autumn or the fall time when it's a little bit colder weather. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!